Hello and welcome everyone to our 61st session of Hello Casa. My name is Michael and today I'm talking to Ian Cockburn from New Orleans, Louisiana. Ian is CEO at Go Find Home, Airbnb host, founder of the real estate school Go Find Home, and licensed real estate broker in Louisiana, licensed agent in California and Nevada, and has been working in the real estate industry for more than 15 years. Ian, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being on the show to share right now in those crazy times along coronavirus, your experience and also your expertise all around real estate across the country. Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi, my name is Ian, and I've been in real estate for a long time, also in construction management. Kind of started a long time ago, back when I was a kid, and my father used to make me go work on a cocoa and coffee plantation in the Caribbean. And fast forward after college, construction management world, and then real estate. I've been doing real estate consistently since 1991,
Mhm.
and licensed real estate broker for a while now.
Mhm. You're moving around places. You live in New Orleans, San Francisco, and LA. How come?
Well, the last 3 years, I've been focusing a lot on creating this real estate platform, and in essence, what it was a years of post-it notes and really lessons learned from doing real estate developments in multiple states for clients from all over the world. And I kind of wanted to bring it all together in the form of a book.
Mhm.
Took 6 months to create the book, and then once I did that, started working on a real estate platform. It set up just as a basic tool to help real estate agents do open houses and virtual open houses.
Mhm.
Before that was a thing. And I've been trying to keep up with the technology to see how I could incorporate 360 technology and other types of technology tools.
Mhm.
Um, and so what ended up happening is it kind of brought me to San Francisco, and my son lives in Los Angeles.
Mhm.
So kind of felt I had a team in Los Angeles of digital media specialist.
Mhm.
He's also part of Go Find Home, and then end up having a team of friends and other folks that I work with directly in San Francisco. Um, and the dynamic is amazing. I love being in New Orleans because it's a place to be creative.
Mhm.
But being in San Francisco, I can network directly with people at Google, have connections with product developers at Samsung and Apple, and it really kind of helps pivot your business forward, like no other place.
Mhm. Great. You just mentioned that you really love to live in New Orleans and to hang out there. Give us an overview of how it is. I know that from obviously around all the jazz and the awesome, beautiful houses. For someone who has never been to New Orleans, how is it?
I think it kind of follows the same path that I laid out when I was doing the real estate platform. It's
Mhm.
all about people. Uh, there's like being able to meet people is so easy in New Orleans. Like everyone is a friend, you just don't know it yet.
Mhm.
And if there's two chairs anywhere in the middle of the street, in the front of your house, wherever it is, two chairs make a party. And next thing you know, there's 20 or 30 people joining you. Um, it's just a place where you can become yourself. You can really find out who you really are.
Mhm.
A lot of people like myself come for a week or 2 weeks to New Orleans, and you find yourself there 25 years later.
Mhm.
Uh, that's the real dynamic of the place. It's a place where people value who you are as a human,
Mhm.
not who you are as whatever job you happen to have that day.
Mhm.
Um,
It's interesting. I think the way you describe it right now, it sounds very European. It's like walkable neighborhoods are not that spread out, and people are super mingling with each other. Is that correct, or is it just a misunderstanding of how I perceive New Orleans to be?
Right, exactly. So it's a lot of ways. It takes like bits and pieces you see in Europe, like the
Hmm.
south of Spain, where it's all about what are we going to eat, where are we going to be drinking, how we get together with family. A lot like Italy, because we have a lot of Italians,
Hmm.
Spanish, we have people all over the world in New Orleans, but
Hmm.
you get a lot of that South Mediterranean feel.
Hmm.
And then again, sometimes it's a lot like Berlin, where you have all kinds of people from all over the world in one place trying to do something.
Mm-hmm.
It was tech for a while, but everything comes in waves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You just mentioned tech. Economic drivers in New Orleans. Is it tourism? Is it construction? What are the main forces there which are driving the economy?
The base of the economy is tourism.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be oil and gas.
Mm-hmm.
They try to have tech. It's there a tiny bit, but at the end of the day, it's still all about tourism.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, unfortunately, there's huge opportunities, but tech companies want infrastructure.
Yeah.
They want it for real. They don't want to hear about it 10 years from now, and they want an educational system that follows up that infrastructure, because you're not going to bring the greatest minds in the world to a place where they have to pay 50 to 20 grand a year to have their kids go to school.
Absolutely.
That's crazy talk, yeah.
I think I read lately several times that New Orleans is becoming more and more popular among tech people to start up there or to work there, because, as you say, like it's very livable, and it's also very thriving.
Right, young folks love it. And what's the real dynamic? It boils down to this, basically. If you're in California and you want to start a business, it's going to cost you a minimum of $1,200,
Mm-hmm.
right? To think about doing an LLC. In Louisiana, it's $135.
Wow. Okay.
Huge difference.
Absolutely.
That summarizes everything else having to do with it. So if you have an idea of any sort, anywhere in the world, you come into America, 135 compared to 1,200, and then you have to go figure out a place to rent, a place to live for crazy money, and all the other dynamics that go with starting a business.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a place like Louisiana like very favorable. And if you're a landlord, if you want to buy real estate, it's the same thing. The taxes are easier for you overall relative to other places like the East or the West Coast. It's very liberal laws when it comes to landlords. They're very landlord friendly.
Mm-hmm. Can you give us an overview a little bit of the neighborhoods, the trendy neighborhoods, emerging neighborhoods, and maybe also square feet prices, maybe even in comparison as well to San Francisco or to Los Angeles?
Well, there's a huge variation from those. But if you want to buy a house in a decent house in a decent neighborhood, you can still get a house for like $150 a square foot.
Wow. Okay.
You want like 150 to 250 a square foot. You get in the French Quarter, it'll go up to like 350 to 600 a square foot, right?
Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking, you get it in New Orleans proper, out in the outskirts, even for less money. And $120, $150 a square foot compared to starting prices in San Jose of $800 to $1,000 a square foot.
Wow. Okay.
In other words, what it costs you $300,000 in New Orleans would cost you 900 to 1.2 million in Los Angeles, and 1.2 to 2 million in San Francisco, San Jose areas.
Absolutely, makes total sense. For me, New Orleans, thinking back to 2005, like let's say my memory is not that long concerning New Orleans. It has been hit. It has had like a lot of, let's say, several hits. We had Katrina, we had the BP oil spill, we had the financial collapse, maybe now we have Corona. Unfortunately, like those are always like these moments when I see, okay, actually right now I feel like New Orleans is coming up again, and then another disaster is coming in. What's your perception about it, and what is the feeling when you go and live in New Orleans?
Well, as currently I'm in California, but I'm going to be heading back down there, and but it kind of feels very similar to right after post Katrina and oil days, in that when you look in the short term, you think like, oh my gosh, this is life as it is. It's always going to be like this with this disaster. But if you think in long term, you can realize that one is huge potential. We've had disasters, we've had other issues happen before, and this is only temporary.
Mm-hmm.
Like my mother used to say, it's always darkest before the dawn.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people tend to, especially in America, they tend to get they think that things are never going to change and everything's going to stay the same and everything's good. We don't care about the other people in the other parts of the world when they have disasters or problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when they get comfortable like that, you think things are never going to change.
Mm-hmm.
Well, life always changes. Everything always changes. We are humans. We've only been here for a couple of thousand years.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in constant flux.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you understand, you look at the world from that perspective of in constant flux, right? You ride with the wave.
Mm-hmm.
You don't try and push the wave out the way and have anxiety attacks.
Mm-hmm.
I think the big lessons learned is even if you're a regular person not buying real estate or otherwise, you ride with that wave. You see what do I need to do to MacGyver or get myself out of that situation? And how do I spend my time? Do I go in anxiety attacks or do I figure out a way out? If you're in real estate, you want to figure out a way out, and the way out is to understand that there's going to be opportunity. There's going to be people who got greedy buying real estate and they didn't know what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
They were doing Airbnbs when they weren't supposed to be doing. They were doing all these things that need to be washed out to the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's going to clear up. And if you were a real person to begin with, you will find ways to grab on that opportunity.
Awesome. You mentioned like two keywords, potential crisis, Airbnb. You are yourself Airbnb host. You also have several friends who you told me before the call have been hit hard on right now already Corona. Give us an overview of what have happened concerning landlords, Airbnb hosts, real estate purchases, and the entire market and its dynamics. And what, in your opinion, are the repercussions for especially the Airbnb hosts?
Well, a big thing is that a lot of the Airbnb hosts in New Orleans were landlords before there was an Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
So we were doing variations of vacation rentals and otherwise. As someone who personally owns property and then has a couple of businesses that have property, we always look at the long term. So the long term landowners don't take money out. Like they very rarely take money out of their property, right? Mm-hmm. So that's one perspective of how you do real estate. Pretty much a Warren Buffett approach. Mm-hmm. The other approach is I want to grab as much money as I can as fast as I can, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to do it. Sometimes it's people that they literally are renters who decide they're going to make the place Airbnb, even if it's not legal. Or it might be someone that thinks they're going to make all of this money in Airbnb worlds, not thinking through that Airbnb in a vacation place like New Orleans is only good for 6 to 8 months at a time. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of mentality generally will make quick money, buy whatever property, leverage all of the other properties to buy a property in New mm-hmm. Orleans or elsewhere, and then they will take all of that cash they make and they will burn through it, buy a new car, a new house, a new whatever, a new wife, husband, and maybe multiples. And then what happens is the first time that money stops, all those people and things disappear. Mm-hmm. And it happens very, very fast, faster than the coronavirus. So they're not thinking about the long term, about having a bucket of money sitting on the side to have some savings put aside in case something happened. Mm-hmm. And that short-term thinking is going to lead to a rapid decline in the market instantly in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. It started happening before this Corona stuff, and it's going to happen again. And so they're going to have this huge window of, say, opportunity or huge window of when those people who were the short timers mm-hmm. are going to make the quick money are going to be out of business very, very fast.
Mm-hmm. It's very apparent what you're saying, that in fact you say, yes, on the one hand, obviously we have the coronavirus, but on the other hand, a lot of Airbnb hosts are to blame themselves because they leveraged their apartments which they don't even own in the first place. I saw several tweets this week. One was going until I just lost 80K because I was leveraging. I was having like 20 apartments 4 leads on my own, but then I got all the cancellations. And then those tweets were directly accusing Airbnb, saying, hey, you just changed the cancellation policy. I want to have my money back. What's your point on, what's your perception on that one? And do you have an opinion about it?
Right. Well, first of all, Airbnb owns nothing. Mm-hmm. Okay. They own some software, mm-hmm. and they don't care about anyone but themselves. Mm-hmm. Okay. And they're mostly young, they're mostly inexperienced. And I've been to the Airbnb office, mm-hmm. and it looks like the Lord of the Flies with a bunch of young people running around with backpacks who have no clue about anything and don't own any real estate. So they have put themselves in a position to pretend as if they could manage property. Mm-hmm. Now, the rest of us have to have a license to manage property, but Airbnb doesn't. Mm-hmm. And with all of their fluff, they create the environment to pretend basically to do the same process as a property manager. Now, a property manager has to be fiscally, financially responsible, otherwise they get to go to jail, mm-hmm. and they get fined. Right? You write contracts. They're legal contracts that are held all the way up to the Supreme Court. If you violate those contracts, you go to jail or you get fined or both. Mm-hmm. Right? Airbnb doesn't have any of that. Airbnb decided to change their terms and conditions 3 or 4 days before it became a crisis anyway. I still have not seen the terms and conditions, but I knew something was going down. When I started getting phone calls about, Ian, all of my Airbnb people canceled. Then I lost $4,500 one morning before breakfast, and I got up early that day. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that it was 000. In other words, the person who canceled didn't get charged for it. Mm-hmm. Right? So basically, all the terms and conditions that we as hosts agreed to now are no longer being agreed to by Airbnb. Mm-hmm. And they decided they're going to play God and change the terms and conditions. Guess what? The devil's going to come down for them because it's going to be a serious problem when they start getting sued. And I could see them going into bankruptcy just by that one action of randomly changing terms and conditions just to benefit themselves.
Wow.
Because Airbnb lost nothing. We lost money. Mm-hmm. And between myself and my friend, we lost $20,000 in rentals in less than 24 hours. Mm-hmm. And we're just the people, right?
You're just one of many.
And about 5 or 6 of my friends.
Yeah.
Just
you have a very strong statement saying that in fact Airbnb might face bankruptcy and they will have like very strong repercussions. I agree, and I also even think it was a totally unnecessary move from Airbnb because me as a guest, I would have expected the cancellation fees. I mean, I can maybe then ask for like to Airbnb to pay the cancellation fees for my side, but to be honest, like awesome. I had to pay my flights because I had like a scheduled a flight somewhere else. I know that yes, there's force majeure or how you call it, but still like there's so many little situations where it really applies. So I totally would have understood as a guest, and I think a lot of guests would have understood as, okay, I just have to pay the cancellation fee, so I just have to more or less like eat it. But why harming the entire supply, the entire host inventory in fact, by not charging or not giving them the cancellation fee? And I think this is a little bit contradicting the entire Airbnb model. In fact, like only serving the guests and not serving the host at all.
Right. So they think they're gonna cut the supply chain off every time there's a disaster. I mean, when hurricane season comes up, what are they gonna do? Randomly say if there's a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico, all Airbnb people are just gonna eat their money? Is that what they're gonna do? Is the earthquake in California? Is that what they're gonna do?
Yeah.
That's a very strange model.
Absolutely.
But everyone's got to share a bit of the risk. Now they're going back to Mr. Trump to go beg for free money, right? For themselves, not for us.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's a scary kind of monster. That's not a very dynamic monster. And when I remember the first time I went into a WeWork office in downtown San Francisco, where they had to crawl over the hobos to make it into the WeWork office, and I looked at their model. Yeah, and I'm not kidding you. And nothing's wrong with the hobos. nicer than the people inside of the building. And so once you get in the building, I realized this doesn't make any sense. How can you pay there, not changing the commercial world, but paying basically $12 to $15 a square foot, if that makes any sense? So where you're standing is X dollars, right? If the rest of the country is $8 a foot and WeWork wants to pay 15 to 20 bucks a foot,
Yep.
how is that model? Basic math for a 2-year-old could tell you that model is not going to work out very well for you if you can't fill the space, right? And so it's the same mentality and the same mindset of the people with WeWork that are literally down the street from that office I went to, 8 blocks down the street, or 300 hobos, that can tell you where, that like this isn't going to work.
Yep. No, I totally agree. It's the same model, only different scale. Absolutely.
That's it. Different scale, and with SoftBank backing up the WeWork money. We don't know where that money's gone now. That money's gone real soft.
This money has vanished, and I think that we will not see it again. Yeah, absolutely. Talking now a little bit about New Orleans as a landlord versus a tenant. Do you see any dynamics there? And also with the background concerning Airbnb and the situation right now, where do you see the future there going, especially also with the context of the coronavirus?
Well, it's going to get worse before it gets better. But New Orleans has survived really bad things. So, for the short term, a lot parts of the market are going to go down. But for the long term, I say 6 months out, I see gargantuan opportunity, and I see it scaling all the way back up to where it was before.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned in the beginning that you are licensed real estate agent, not only in New Orleans, but also in Nevada and also in California. What are the biggest differences between those states? You mentioned before regulations, also taxes, and also prices. Do you have any, let's say, bullets which you can share with us? Say, we have definitely like these advantages in this state and these disadvantages in this state.
Right. Well, definitely, I would say Nevada and Louisiana are very similar in terms of being able to you could still get value for your money. Nevada even more so. Louisiana has issues with termites and hurricanes and settling, and just a multitude of issues that you have very little control over. And it's so much easier in Nevada. You're dealing with desert. It's hot. Okay. And California has so many regulations. And even though I guess the big advantage with California is you have all of this money coming in from all over the globe constantly, and it's not just China; it's wherever land. I have clients from each continent, and it's kind of crazy. And I just started, and it's amazing how much cash money these people have relative to places like Nevada or more like places like Louisiana, where if we could have half the immigrants in New Orleans that they have coming into Los Angeles, New Orleans would be like the number one city in the country. But that's at the end of the day, you go to a place with these immigrants, and the amount of money coming in it's money and brain power is amazing. It's like being around Stanford. The amount of money and the amount of brain cells that you will go to in a networking event there is like nowhere else on the globe.
I totally agree. I once went to a Stanford lecture, and I was blown away. And it's the entire atmosphere is just amazing. Absolutely. Do you also see some real estate regulations which are more attractive to those foreign direct investors or foreign investors, which attracts more like them to invest in California? Or do you just see that there's a hype around it and people are flocking in without any sense of maybe objective analysis? Or is it more, yes, there's some certain good reasons? Because in fact, what you say is that the clientele of investors should actually be flocking in much more to Louisiana and also to Nevada, because in Louisiana we have like a higher ROI on the investments, especially during a certain period of time throughout the year. And especially in Nevada, you have like also the regulations, which are much more favorable for investors. How do you see that?
Well, the overseas investors, so if they're coming from Asia, like the East and the West Coast a lot, and like they don't always get what's going on in the rest of the country. And if they come in with cash, their option is, okay, I have $1 million. So really, if you want to get the visa, it's gone from 500,000 to 2 million. So they have $2 million in cash. It's sitting in the bank making nothing. I could at least buy any real estate to make at least 4 or 5% on my money, right? So they're not even thinking of Louisiana or Nevada or a few other states where you can make a lot more return on your investment. On a basic, like on multifamilies, commercial is generally a little bit less, right? So they'll buy a shopping center somewhere on the edge of Los Angeles or something instead of like a 30-unit place in Nevada or Louisiana.
Got it. You also have your own business, which I would like to talk about, especially the Go Find Home. You mentioned before that you saw a pain point and you started building this website to facilitate, especially also visibility in the market. But also you have a very interesting teachable course where you can learn how to become a very good real estate investor and also do appraisals and do a lot of things on your own to really learn it by heart. I really like it. Can you give us an overview of what is your current main business about?
The major priority has been this real estate platform. I'm getting out on a national level, and still having my real estate brokerage and the other business there. Go from, instead of only have a handful of clients, I could focus on those clients. I'm on a consultative role. But the Go Find Home real estate platform, the idea is to make it easier for anyone to get involved in real estate, whether they were real estate agents, brokers, or pretty much anyone that wants to get involved in buying, selling, or leasing real estate. And the idea behind the app was to have a rating system for agents, so one can have a better understanding of what an agent is supposed to be doing for you, and also a rating of the properties. And the rating of the properties isn't just like what color is it or the HGTV version of a rating. It's more of a rating of how does this property relate to where you are in your journey in life.
Okay. And that's it's a questionnaire which I before fill out, or is it chatbot, or is it just based on metadata and behavior on my website, on the internet in general?
Right. So the idea is that there's 5 questions for each rating system. There's 5 questions for an agent that when you have an agent, if an agent is registered on the platform and they have a listing, you would rate that agent. To rate that agent, you would actually have to have some form of a relationship with that agent to ask these specific questions, like how professional were they? Did they fill your needs? Did they have, what kind of background did they have relative to what you have? And when looking at a property, it isn't just what color the property is. It's more like, how did you feel in the space? The idea is you rate a property based on the same way an architect would look at a property or look at a building. You look at the space, how the space works, how it flows, and then kind of take it to that next level of how you perceive it. And I was going to have a series of chat bots that asked these similar questions. There were 54 questions reduced to these 5, which I'm still going to do, but there were some changes with Facebook and Google. That's going to be the biggest complication, is there are constantly changes with privacy issues with the Google and Apple and Samsung. Can I address those one at a time? That's why it's so much of an emphasis on when you ask these questions, how do you ask it? who keeps the data. Because right now I don't want to give any of the data away to anyone.
Mhm.
Um,
And then you sign up, and then you get like properties listed in your feed based on those questions, and then you are also being presented a certain agent, or is that the next step then afterwards?
Right. Well, right now it's free for buyers. So buyers log on to the app, the Go Find Home mobile app, and they have a free resource guide that explains all about real estate, and most of that is free.
Mm-hmm.
And then agents sign on for $10 a month and have unlimited listings, or anyone could do a for sale by owner for $1, and they get a listing for 90 days. Yeah, and
Okay.
so that's it. Yeah,
Awesome.
so it's really easy. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the Teachable and the online course. Well, what is that about, and what can people who are interested to learn more about real estate skills find?
With the Teachable version, takes some of what I have in the resource guide and breaks it out into more details. There's several variations within the school, which is buyer centric. It's all about buyers, how to go and do your own inspection, how to understand what to get in an inspection, when you're doing, how to understand what an appraisal is. When you're looking at value, how you can establish what is real value in a property, and then on the other end is a complete marketing system for real estate agents, or real estate brokers, and that I'm currently implementing with a few people, and that came from realizing that most people in real estate professionals don't have a direct access or direct understanding of what's going on in Silicon Valley. So what I want to do was bridge that gap so they could say, hey, this is how it really happens in Silicon Valley. Because unfortunately, at the national level, the National Association of Realtors, very few of those people have any understanding of technology. And so what most real estate professionals end up getting in America is the leftovers. It's so unfortunate that I was talking about Zoom 2 years ago and no one got it, even at the national level of the National Association of Realtors.
Yeah.
And only because this disaster are they now becoming aware of it. And literally every day I have the same conversation with the different brokers. And like, oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, it is sometimes interesting to see like good. It's not only about good or the best technology. It is about like good timing and market adaptation, and somehow having the consumers being adaptable and open to readjust. And sometimes it's just like they need to be shaken, and they need to have like a certain effect so that they need to change. It's super interesting. It's super interesting to see. Yeah.
Right. So the ongoing idea with the online platform is to keep changing it, keep adding to it, where people need help. I add on new parts of it. I have spreadsheets on there that are downloadable, so people can instantly start changing their business or modifying what they have to do. Make a very positive twist to what was usually a static type of school system.
Going back to your core expertise as a realtor, you have so much of experience, especially in those different markets and states, which I think is quite unique, to be honest. And you also being originally from the UK and moved to the US when you were 14. Give us a little bit of like some interesting stories of your real estate sales and some listings which you did during your real estate brokerage. You mentioned once, for example, before our call, that you sold like RV park in Mississippi in 2008 during the financial crisis. Walk us through that one, and how was that? How was that situation?
That was really interesting. So I'll give you the summary. I was working in corporate America, found this RV park that had basically all of the infrastructure to build a subdivision. I was working in DC, found it on Craigslist, came back to New Orleans, drove out to Mississippi, made an offer, borrowed $25,000 against the house that I was renovating. and use that money as a down payment to buy the RV park.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds really crazy. Took all of the money for that $25,000 and paid it back with the same rental money from the RV park.
Mm-hmm.
Started making it into a subdivision a bit at a time. Was going to sell it the week of Katrina. Katrina happened. The guy canceled the day, like hours before Katrina. And I'll put it to my ex-wife. Isn't America the greatest country in the world? One day you could be worth $1 million, and the next day zero.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, what happened is Katrina wiped out the entire town except for my RV park. Yeah, minor details. And then fast forward now, 3 years later, I've done a whole lot of work to it, expanded it, and then I ended up with, I have it under contract, about to sell it, kept having delays with some guy in New York, and the day of the crash, I was sitting at the closing table, and the guy from New York was still playing games, and the TV was going wild, and people were talking about things crashing. And I laid on the table and I told a guy from New York, I'm not leaving here until I get all of my money. And I got my money at 4:30 that afternoon. And then the entire market collapsed completely by 5.
And you already left the office with the money.
I left that office. Yeah, exactly.
You were gone.
Gone. I say in the South, gone pecan. Yeah, I left the office with a check, and I never cashed a check so fast in my entire life.
Can imagine. Off to the Bahamas. Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, well, really, literally, I was back to the Caribbean. Yeah, it's a paid for a Caribbean trip or two. Yeah.
Conclusion / comment on coronavirus and COVID right now in US and where you are right now, be it LA or be it New Orleans, where you're stuck right now. We all stuck somewhere. What's your perception? What's your outlook, your personal outlook on real estate, but also on the entire economy? I saw today that I think it was like this week, 3 million new people called themselves like unemployed only in the US. They definitely will see like a huge economic impact on that. What's your opinion on it, and where do you see the economy going?
I've seen being in California gives you a different perspective. Whatever happens in California happens in the rest of the country a week to 2 weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
In California, they take a practical approach to things. Believe it or not, some people might object to that. But in the South, people have spent a week and 2 weeks praying and doing all these other things. And like, are you sure? Are you sure? They do a lot of "are you sure" in the South.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of doubts and conspiracy theories. Like the further south you go, it's like getting into South America. Like go in the jungles of Colombia and Ecuador and Peru. They do the same thing. Are you sure? Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is like a trickle down theory almost. What happens in California happens in the rest of the country eventually. And what I see here is a lot of fear, a lot of closing down of things completely, as opposed to what's happening in Louisiana. We've stopped selling in California altogether. It's a matter of, I think it's against the law, some bits and pieces. Mm-hmm. But in Louisiana, people are still showing houses. Mm-hmm. They're still doing walking through, doing their virtual tours. It's kind of amazing. So I got to head back to New Orleans in the next few days. And it literally is like going in a twilight zone, mm-hmm. from one side of the country to the next. Mm-hmm. Where it's going, I don't know. But it's not looking pretty.
Okay, so for California, it just froze everything right now. Nothing is moving. Okay,
nothing's going. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Give us your final thoughts before you wrap up. Something you would like to share with the audience, either investors or Airbnb hosts, landlords, maybe also other realtors, to share your expertise, your experience, and your final words.
Well, I think less anxiety and more planning. We'll overcome this, overcome other things before. Having anxiety attacks doesn't help anybody. Having a plan of action, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, a month, 2 months down the road is all good. If the plan doesn't come to fruition, who cares? At least you had a plan.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. How can people contact you if they would like to reach out to you?
Yeah, you can email me at ian@gofindhome.com. That's IAN at gofindhome.com, all one word. You got my website, gofindhome.com is on there. And, if you want to call me direct at 504-615-2333, 504-615-2333. I don't mind any calls as long as you're not trying to sell me insurance policies and so on. I'm all good.
You don't like insurance policies?
No, I got enough insurance policies.
Perfect.
Yeah. He wants assistance with like having to understand like what the dynamic is going to be, how we're going to approach Airbnb or any kind of real estate like that in the future. I'm here to help.
Awesome. Ian, thank you so much for the time. Thank you so much for all your insights, and thank you so much for your crisp and clear statements on all the topics we've talked about. Thank you so much. Have a nice day, and we talk soon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Thanks.
Bye-bye.